Hey there, fellow developers and tech enthusiasts. Are you ready to take your lift and shift cloud migration deployment to the next level? You are lucky because in today's video, we are diving into the exciting world of continuous integration and continuous deployment. We are going to use Spring Boot, the magic of GitHub Action, and the power of AWS Elastic Beanstalk. Whether you are a seasoned developer or just starting your tech journey, you are in the right place. So grab your favorite beverage and hit that subscribe button and let's embark on this adventure together. Before we get into the technical stuff, let's quickly talk about the tools we will be using. Spring Boot is a framework for building Java applications, while Elastic Beanstalk is an AWS service that helps us to deploy and manage applications, commonly used to migrate infrastructure to the cloud, following the platform as a service model. When we add GitHub Actions to the mix, it is like having a team of robots to help us to quickly test and deploy our application. GitHub Actions, what is that? It is a CI/CD tool. Think of it as a super helpful assistant that helps you to automate the integration and the deployment of your application. So no more manual work, but just smooth sailing. It is designed to make our life easier by handling the heavy lifting for us in order to synchronize the development and the operation teams together. This video is part 3 of the Lift and Shift Cloud Migration series, whose playlist is available on the channel. We previously covered the normal deployment, the cloud migration, then the scalability, and now we are addressing the CI/CD. Let's talk about the prerequisites. We will need a Spring Boot application hosted on GitHub and an AWS Elastic Beanstalk environment ready to go, plus a basic understanding of Spring Boot, AWS, and GitHub will come in handy. We have a Spring Boot application already that you can access from the GitHub repository over here, or feel free to use yours if you have any. Now, let's create the Elastic Beanstalk environment. I assume you already have the Elastic Beanstalk CLI properly configured on your PC and project. Else, take a look at the part 1 video of this series or the corresponding blog post that we published a few months ago. By this stage, you should have a normal Spring Boot application with a special Elastic Beanstalk configuration in it. It contains the required information in order to kickstart your deployment infrastructure. Now, from the project root folder, run the following command in order to create the Elastic Beanstalk environment. It will take a few minutes, then your Elastic Beanstalk environment will be up and running. Now that the provisioning is done, feel free to copy the deployment URL from the output of the previous command over here. Another convenient way is by simply using the command ebopen, which is going to open the same deployment URL in your browser directly. I have it open in another tab. Still from the root folder of your project, you can run the command ebdeploy in order to deploy your Spring Boot application to AWS. But we are not going to do that because we are trying to automate this whole process altogether by using GitHub Action, which lead to the next part, how to securely manage AWS credentials within our deployment pipeline. Security is paramount, especially when we are dealing with sensitive credentials. For GitHub Actions to deploy the app, it needs specific credentials with the right permissions to interact with your AWS resources. This can be achieved by utilizing GitHub Secrets, which enables you to store sensitive data securely. I will walk you through the process of using GitHub Secrets to securely store your AWS access keys. Navigate to your GitHub repository, click on Settings, then Secrets and Variable, then on Action. And finally, the new repository secret button is available to add your AWS access key ID, You can do the same in order to fill in your AWS secret access key. Those steps are required in order for GitHub Action to know an available account or role is going to be used to deploy your resources on AWS. Before going to the next part, please subscribe to the channel and knock on the bell to be aware of our following videos. It helps the channel to grow and our community as well. It is time to get our hands dirty. We have to create a workflow file that is going to perform some action in order to compile the project and of course push the changes to Elastic Beanstalk environment. So without waiting too much, let's go straight to the point. You have to create a workflow file included in the workflows folder present in the GitHub hidden folder over here in your repository. Feel free to give whatever name you would like for your file, but most importantly, your file has a very specific structure. It needs to have a name, how the workflow is going to be executed, and some jobs included in it. And of course, a job can have multiple steps. Now let's start from the beginning. Give whatever name you would like for your flow as well. By providing the workflow dispatch, you specify to GitHub that you would like to run the workflow manually from GitHub dashboard. And the push event over here means if any commit are being done on the feature /liftandshift cicd branch, then the jobs below are going to be executed. So the jobs use the latest version of Ubuntu. It specifies the directory from where we would like the bash script to be executed. So if your repository doesn't have a complicated structure as this one, then maybe you don't need to specify the default working directory over here. Now let's continue. The first step is actually to get the latest version of the source code by doing a checkout. And then it installs Java 17, which is the version that the project needs in order to be executed properly. It runs the build script that is present in the root folder of the project itself, which simply remove the latest executable, perform a compilation of the code, create that runnable.jar file at the root of the project. If we go back to the workflow file, then we create a zip file out of that runnable executable, and we use the beanstalk deploy action, which is created and available publicly. In it, we have to provide the region to deploy our infrastructure, the version. This number automatically have a value each time the action is going to be called. The package is very important because it specifies where the deployment package should be taken before performing the deployment, which is at the root of the project, as you have done over here. And most importantly, you have to specify the access key ID and the secret access key that we have provided to GitHub in the previous section. But also you have to make sure that the application name and the environment name match the one you define when you create your Elastic Beanstalk environment. So normally you should have a folder similar to this in your project, and make sure that this line, the environment and the application name are actually the same. Once it is done, for the next step, you simply have to perform a commit to see if everything works as expected. But you have to remind that in case you would like your workflow to be performed or to be run, no matter the branches that you work on, maybe you would like to remove these, or you can customize it according to your need. Not only the branches to run the workflow can be customized. Let's say you want to perform more integration step before the deployment of your app. That is fine. To do that, maybe after the compilation, you can come over here and you specify one more step. It can be run unit test. Just below, you have to specify the command to run in order to execute a unit test. For this specific project, it's going to be Maven wrapper test, and that is it. Finally, We can test everything with the following points. Do a fork of the main repository. I have mine already. Confirm your AWS credentials are in place. Yeah, I have them. Now, commit all the changes, especially the workflow file that is present in the GitHub hidden folder over here. You have to push this one to the branch that you are going to use. Of course, you can change this branch. That depends on the configuration that you want to set up for your pipeline. Next, make a minor code change to your project. We can do something like this and do a simple commit to your repository. Boom. GitHub Action will automatically detect the push event, trigger the workflow, and initiate the deployment of your Spring Boot application to AWS Elastic Beanstalk. Let's monitor the workflow by accessing the GitHub Action dashboard on GitHub. Come over here. We click on from here we click on Actions, and then you can see the commit that we have just done. Small change. If you open it, you can open the log over here to see all the event being applied. It is simply going to take the last changes being made on the repository, perform the compilation, create the executable, and then push it to AWS Elastic Beanstalk. At the end, we should see a successful message if everything went right. Else, we are surely going to see something appropriate depending on the error that we have. Perfect. Everything worked as expected. And now, if we open our API again, since we perform a change in the code, we should now see the change being done over here. So it is now different. We have a demo label that we added previously. Thank you so much for joining me today. We have just completed the part 3 of our Lift and Shift Cloud Migration series. If you have any question or feedback, feel free to drop them in the comment below. The next video is going to cover some monitoring and debugging possibilities on AWS Elastic Beanstalk. So feel free to subscribe to be kept posted. Until then, keep learning, keep coding, keep creating, and of course, keep sharing. See you in the next video.